Australia has houses selling for less than a used Toyota Corolla. Not apartments, not cabins, not a fixer-upper that's really just a shed with delusions. Actual houses, standing on land with walls and sometimes even a roof. And no, this isn't a typo or a clickbait scam. It's a real estate market that's basically screaming, "Please take my house. Please." Because across Australia, entire towns are bleeding residents, jobs, and optimism. Drought has turned once green landscapes into cracked clay. Bushfire risk has made insurers treat certain postcodes like toxic waste. And in some places, the main employer left town so quietly you'd think it was a magician. Today, we're counting down 10 Australian towns where home prices are so low you'll think it's a scam. But here's the catch. The bargains come with consequences. And number one, you're not ready for number one. If you like dark truths wrapped in wild beauty, hit like, subscribe, and buckle up, because this countdown gets worse before it gets cheaper. Number 10. Queenstown, Tasmania. Queenstown looks like a town that's been gently scolded by nature for over a century, and nature won. Tucked into Tasmania's rugged west coast, this former mining hub is famous for its surreal, almost lunar hillsides. Trees were stripped away generations ago by mining runoff, and they never really came back. The result? A town that feels like it's living inside a foggy painting titled "Economic Decline, but Make It Scenic." Now here's the part that makes people blink. Houses here regularly list around 120,000 to 150,000 AUD, sometimes less if the seller has emotionally checked out. Rents hover in the $250 to $300 per week range, assuming you can find one that isn't already taken by someone who works for the council or the hospital. Crime rates are generally below the national average, mostly because nothing happens fast enough here to escalate. The biggest danger is seasonal depression sneaking up on you like a cat with a grudge. Why so cheap? Simple. Jobs are scarce, winters are long, and the weather behaves like it has a personal vendetta against sunlight. On Reddit, one user famously wrote, "Queenstown is beautiful if you don't need vitamin D, friends, or ambition." Harsh, but not entirely wrong. That said, there's a strange magic here. The mountains loom dramatically, the air smells like rain and eucalyptus, and there's a sense that the world forgot this place. And that's exactly how some residents like it. Artists, retirees, and people who've sworn off capital cities drift in, convinced they've found a secret. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they last one winter and vanish. This town is like a lukewarm cup of tea you forgot about. Oddly comforting, but you're not sure how long it's been sitting there. Life moves slowly, very slowly, the kind of slow where the post office closing early becomes the main topic of conversation for a week. Picture this. You're standing on a weathered porch, mist curling through the valley, mountains rising like ghosts in the distance. It's dead quiet. No traffic, no sirens, just the soft hiss of rain on tin roofs. Peaceful, until you realize this silence is permanent. And if you think Queenstown feels isolated, wait until you see what's coming next. Number 9. Port Augusta, South Australia. Port Augusta is where Australia politely stops being polite. This is the official handshake between civilization and the outback, a town that greets you with a blast of heat and says, "You sure about this, mate?" It sits at the top of Spencer Gulf, surrounded by red dirt, saltbush, and the kind of horizon that makes you question your life choices. The prices are what pull people in. Houses here commonly sell in the 130,000 to 180,000 AUD range, with some dipping lower when desperation meets timing. Rents float around $280 to $320 per week, cheap by national standards but still a stretch for many locals. Crime rates sit above the national average, especially for property crime, which locals explain with a shrug and a lock-your-doors attitude. Port Augusta used to hum with power station jobs. Then the coal plants shut down and the town exhaled a long, tired sigh. Employment thinned out, young people left, and the real estate market followed them out the door. On Reddit, you'll see comments like, "Port Augusta is great if you love dust, heat, and explaining to people why you still live in Port Augusta." Affection in the sarcasm, but it's definitely sarcasm. The heat here is not a suggestion. Summer days regularly push past 45 degrees Celsius, turning car interiors into ovens and flies into highly organized, unionized workers with a strict no-leave policy. This is not beach town heat. This is stand still and rethink your existence heat. Still, there's beauty if you squint through the shimmer. The Flinders Ranges rise nearby like a rugged escape hatch. The sunsets explode in colors that look fake. And the community, those who stay, are tough, proudly, stubbornly tough. They'll help you change a tire, but they will absolutely laugh at you for not bringing water. Port Augusta feels like a town that's been waiting for a comeback that may or may not arrive. It's not dead, but it's pacing in the waiting room, tapping its foot. Picture this. You're sitting on a veranda at dusk, the sky melting into purple and orange, warm wind humming through the air. A road train growls in the distance, flies finally clocking out for the night. It's raw, real, and unforgiving. And if you think Port Augusta is intense, wait until we head west, because the next town comes with forests, coal dust, and an identity crisis. Number 8. Collie, Western Australia. Collie is what happens when a town builds its entire personality around coal, and then the world decides it's done with coal. Nestled inland from Perth, surrounded by Jarrah forests and deceptively pretty lakes, Collie looks like a wholesome regional town, the kind you'd expect to see on a cereal box. Then you check the house prices and realize something is very wrong. Houses here regularly sell between $140,000 and $190,000 AUD, with some dipping even lower when sellers get nervous. Rents hover around $300 per week, which sounds reasonable until you remember that job security here is about as stable as a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Crime rates are around the national average, spiking occasionally when economic anxiety does what it always does, boils over.
For decades, Collie lived off power stations and coal mines. Good wages, strong unions, solid routines. Then closures and transitions rolled in, and suddenly the town found itself Googling, "What now?" Reddit locals often say things like, "Collie's nice, just don't ask what people do for work unless you want a long pause." That pause is the sound of an economy clearing its throat. The thing is, Collie is actually beautiful. Forests wrap around the town, lakes shimmer just outside the suburbs, and Perth is only a couple of hours away. On paper, it should be booming. In reality, it's stuck in limbo, waiting to see if renewable energy, tourism, or sheer optimism will save it. This town feels like a retriever that's been told it can't fetch anymore. Still loyal, still eager, but confused about its purpose. Some people move here betting on reinvention. Others move out quietly, leaving behind cheap houses and unanswered questions. Life in Collie is calm, almost suspiciously so. Shops close early, nights are quiet, too quiet. You'll hear frogs, wind through trees, and occasionally the distant echo of something industrial that used to matter more than it does now. Picture this. You're standing by a lake at sunset, water glowing amber, forest shadows stretching long. It's peaceful, almost perfect, until you remember that beauty doesn't always pay the mortgage. And if you think a town losing its main industry is risky, wait until you see what happens when the industry still runs, but the isolation is absolute. Number 7. Mount Isa, Queensland. Mount Isa isn't just remote, it's aggressively remote. This is a city that exists because someone found minerals here and decided humans could simply adapt. Planted deep in northwest Queensland, surrounded by endless red dirt and heat that feels legally questionable, Mount Isa is where cheap houses go to test your mental toughness. The numbers are wild. Houses regularly sell between $150,000 and $220,000 AUD dollars, sometimes less if the market sneezes. Rents sit around $350 to $400 per week, which sounds high until you realize wages used to justify it. Crime rates are well above the national average, a fact locals acknowledge with the kind of weary honesty that comes from repetition. This is a mining town, full stop. FIFO workers come and go like migratory birds with high-vis vests. When the mine is humming, money flows. When it coughs, the entire town holds its breath. Reddit sums it up perfectly. Mount Isa is great if you love money and hate everything else. Subtle, accurate. The heat is relentless. Summer days blur together in a shimmering haze, where walking to your mailbox feels like a personal challenge issued by the sun. Mosquitoes here aren't just numerous, they're organized, disciplined, and possibly taking notes. Social life exists, but it revolves around pubs, air conditioning, and the shared trauma of living here. And yet, people stay. Some love the outback landscapes, the dramatic gorges nearby, the sense of camaraderie that only forms when everyone is equally uncomfortable. Others stay because leaving means admitting defeat. Mount Isa has a way of daring you to quit. This town feels like a gym membership you never cancelled. You keep telling yourself it's good for you, even as it slowly drains your soul. But the paychecks? They whisper sweet nothings. Picture this. You're sitting outside at night, stars exploding across the sky, the air still warm, still heavy. The mind glows on the horizon like a mechanical sunset. It's beautiful, haunting, and very far from everywhere else. And if you think Mount Isa is isolated, wait until we talk about a town that keeps getting emotionally whiplashed by steel.
Number 6. Whyalla, South Australia. Whyalla is a town that lives and dies by steel. And lately, it's been doing a lot of dramatic fainting. Sitting on the edge of the Spencer Gulf, this place has ocean views, wide streets, and house prices that make city buyers suspicious. Because surely, a seaside town shouldn't be this cheap, right? Well, houses here often sell between $140,000 and $200,000 AUD, with some dipping even lower during downturns. Rents average around $280 to $330 per week. Crime rates are above the national average, particularly property crime, which locals chalk up to economic stress and boredom doing a tag team routine. Whyalla's heartbeat is the steelworks. When it's thriving, the town feels optimistic. New cafes appear, people repaint their houses, and conversations include the word future. When it's not, for sale signs bloom like weeds. Reddit regulars put it bluntly, Whyalla's fine as long as the steelworks is fine. When it's not, everyone suddenly remembers Adelaide exists. The whiplash is exhausting. One year, you're in a boomtown. The next, you're explaining to friends why you're staying put just a little longer. That uncertainty is baked into the property prices. Buyers aren't just purchasing a house, they're betting on an industry that's been pronounced dead multiple times and keeps crawling back like a movie villain. But here's the twist. Whyalla is genuinely nice in parts. The coastline is underrated, dolphins cruise the Gulf, and sunsets feel personal. Community spirit is strong because everyone's been through the same roller coaster together. It's a town bonded by shared economic anxiety. Whyalla feels like a beach holiday interrupted by a work email every 5 minutes. You want to relax, but the stress never fully leaves. Still, some people swear it's the best deal in South Australia, if you've got the nerves for it. Picture this. You're walking along the foreshore at dusk. Salty air cooling the day, steelworks glowing faintly behind you. The water is calm, the sky on fire, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of industry reminds you who's really in charge. And if you think an industrial town on the coast is risky, wait until we head inland to a place where isolation becomes a lifestyle choice. Number 5. Broken Hill, New South Wales. Broken Hill is less a town and more a beautifully preserved argument against convenience. Sitting way out in far west New South Wales, closer to Adelaide than Sydney in both distance and spirit, this place is iconic, historic, and staggeringly isolated. It's also one of the cheapest places in the country to buy a house because isolation always collects its rent. Median house prices hover between $120,000 and $180,000 AUD, with some properties slipping under that when sellers decide they've had enough of red dust in their cereal. Rents usually land around $250 to $300 per week. Crime sits above the national average, particularly property crime, a common companion in towns where opportunity packed its bags years ago. Broken Hill was built on mining, silver, lead, zinc, and when the mines slowed, the town didn't collapse so much as stiffened. It became stubborn, artistic, a little feral. You'll hear people online say things like, Broken Hill is amazing for a month, then the month lasts forever. That sums it up beautifully.
The town has museums, galleries, and more heritage buildings than seems reasonable for a place this far from anything. Film crews love it. Artists drift in, get inspired by the vast emptiness, then drift out again when they realize the nearest IKEA is basically a myth. Summers are brutally hot, winters surprisingly cold, and the flies here are not passive. They're assertive. And yet, Broken Hill has soul. The sunsets are biblical. The night sky is absurdly clear. There's a strange pride among locals who stayed when everyone else left.
They'll tell you this place gets into your blood, which is either poetic or a medical concern, depending on how long you've been there. This town feels like a beautiful old song playing on a scratched record. Still powerful, but you can hear where time has worn it down. Cheap houses are everywhere, but so is the sense that you're stepping into a place that already peaked and knows it. Picture this. You're standing on a hill at sunset, the land stretching endlessly, sky burning red and gold. The town hums quietly behind you, wind carrying dust and history. It's stunning and absolutely undeniably far from everything. And if you think Broken Hill is remote, wait until we talk about a town that gets wiped out by nature on a semi-regular schedule. Number 4, Charleville, Queensland. Charleville is the kind of town that makes you respect human stubbornness, because no one lives here by accident. Sitting in southwest Queensland, this place has been punched repeatedly by floods, droughts, heat waves, and economic decline. And every time it gets back up, dusts itself off, and says, "All right, your turn again." House prices reflect that ongoing battle. You'll find homes selling between $110,000 and $160,000 AUD, sometimes less if the seller has flood memories they'd rather not relive. Rents sit around $230 to $280 per week, and crime rates are around to slightly above the national average, fluctuating with population changes and seasonal work. Charleville's history is soaked in resilience. When the floods hit, they don't gently inconvenience the town, they rewrite it. Businesses shut, families leave, and property values reset like a bad video game checkpoint. Reddit commentary is blunt. Charleville is cheap because the river likes to redecorate every few years. Dark humor, but accurate. The weather is a full contact sport. Summers feel endless, winters can surprise you, and the flies operate like a surveillance network. There's a sense here that nature is always watching, waiting for its moment. Insurance premiums are high, if you can get coverage at all, and that alone scares off many buyers. But there's something admirable about Charleville. The community is tight because it has to be. People look out for each other because no one else is coming. Nights are quiet, stars are sharp, and the town has a strange calm between disasters. It's the eye of the storm, literally and emotionally. Charleville feels like a house that's been rebuilt too many times. Still standing, still loved, but carrying the scars in its walls. You don't move here for convenience. You move here because you've made peace with chaos. Picture this. You're sitting outside after sunset, the air finally cooling, the sky a deep violet. The town is quiet, almost tender, like it's catching its breath. For now, everything is fine. And if you think living at the mercy of floods is intense, wait until we visit a town close enough to a major city to tease you, but far enough to disappoint. Number 3, Lithgow, New South Wales. Lithgow is the friend who keeps saying they're basically in Sydney, even though everyone knows that's emotionally untrue. Tucked just beyond the Blue Mountains, this former industrial town has long lived in the shadow of bigger, shinier places. Close enough to dream, far enough to remind you why prices dropped. Houses here often sell between $350,000 and $450,000 AUD, which in Sydney terms is pocket change, but nationally still raises eyebrows for a list like this. Rents average $350 to $400 per week, and crime rates sit above the national average, especially for property-related issues. It's not chaos, but it's not quiet either. Lithgow was built on coal, rail, and manufacturing. When those industries declined, the town didn't vanish, it stalled. Reddit threads often describe it as a place with great bones and a weird vibe. Translation: affordable houses, chilly winters, and a lingering sense that the town hasn't quite decided who it wants to be. The weather doesn't help. Lithgow is cold. Not, oh wow, it's brisk cold. More like, why is there frost on my car in October cold? Combine that with foggy mornings and aging infrastructure, and you start to see why some people move in full of optimism and leave quietly 2 winters later. Still, there's upside. The surrounding national parks are stunning. Sydney is technically commutable. And for buyers priced out of the city, Lithgow feels like a rebellious middle finger to housing insanity. But the cheapness comes with mood swings, local politics, and a town that can feel heavy if you're not careful. Lithgow is like buying a discounted jacket that looks great on the rack, but once you wear it for a season, you notice the seams. Some people love it anyway. Others wonder why they didn't go 5 minutes further. Picture this. You're standing outside on a foggy morning, breath visible, mountains looming in the distance. The town wakes slowly, quietly. It's peaceful, but with an edge you can't quite shake. And if you think close to Sydney means safety, wait until we head somewhere truly remote, where cheap houses come with isolation dialed up to 11. Number 2. Tennant Creek, Northern Territory. Tennant Creek is the kind of town that makes you feel like you've accidentally stepped into a different country. It's in the Northern Territory's dry heartland, where the heat is constant, the landscape is raw, and the air smells like dust and sunburn. If you're looking for cheap houses, this is where you find them, but you're also finding a place that has a history of hardship and a present of uncertainty. House prices here are shockingly low, often between $150,000 and $220,000 Australian, sometimes even less depending on the property's condition. Rents hover around $300 to $350 per week, and crime rates are well above the national average, particularly for property and violent crime. This isn't the kind of town you move to if you want a peaceful suburban life. It's the kind of town you move to if you're prepared for reality without the soft edges. Tennant Creek grew around gold mining, and the town still feels like a mining town, dusty, gritty, and always waiting for the next boom. But booms don't last forever. The economy has struggled, jobs are inconsistent, and social issues have been long-standing. Reddit users often say, "Tennant Creek is beautiful, but it will chew you up if you're not careful." That's the town in one line. The heat here is not a seasonal inconvenience, it's a lifestyle. Summers feel like living inside an oven. The landscape is mesmerizing, but it's also relentless, the kind of beauty that doesn't apologize. If you love solitude, Tennant Creek offers it in abundance. If you love people, you might find yourself missing the basics of community life. Tennant Creek feels like a story that's still being written, only the author keeps losing the pen. It's raw, wild, and not polished for tourists. That's part of its charm and part of why it's a tough place to live long-term. Picture this. You're standing on a dusty street at dusk, the sky turning a deep orange, the air still warm against your skin. The silence is thick, broken only by distant animal calls. It's hauntingly beautiful and a little unsettling. And if you think Tennant Creek is intense, wait until you see number 1, because it's the cheapest of them all, and it's not cheap for the reasons you hope.
Number 1. Wilcannia, New South Wales. Wilcannia is the kind of place that makes your brain ask, is this real? It sits on the Darling River in far west New South Wales, and it's the cheapest town on this list for a reason. The numbers are low because the future here feels uncertain, very uncertain, like standing on a riverbank watching the water slowly disappear. House prices in Wilcannia are often under $100,000 Australian, with some properties listed around $70,000, or even less when the owner is desperate. Rents are similarly low, usually around $200 to $250 per week. But the catch is huge. Crime rates are well above the national average, and social challenges are intense. This isn't just a bit rough. This is a place where the economy and community have been deeply strained for years. Wilcannia's story is complicated. It was once a thriving river town, a busy stop for paddle steamers and trade. But as the river changed, industries declined, and people moved away, the town's heartbeat slowed. On Reddit, people say things like, "Wilcannia is cheap because it's been forgotten." And that's not just a joke, it's a warning. The truth is, Wilcannia is hauntingly beautiful. The river has a quiet, eerie charm, and the landscape has a stark, almost cinematic quality. But the beauty doesn't erase the reality. Infrastructure is aging, jobs are limited, and many residents struggle daily. This isn't a town you move to for comfort. It's a town you move to if you're prepared for hardship and willing to accept that life here isn't easy. Wilcannia feels like a storybook town where the pages are missing. It's quiet, empty, and strangely poetic, but it also has a heaviness that doesn't fade. Cheap houses don't just come with low prices. They come with low support systems, low opportunities, and a community that's been pushed to the edge. Picture this. You're standing on a riverbank at sunrise, the water moving slowly like it's tired, the sky pale and quiet. The town behind you is still waking up, but it feels like it's been asleep for a long time. It's beautiful, but it's also deeply unsettling. And if you thought this was shocking, just wait for the next video, because next time we're exploring towns that look expensive, but are hiding even worse traps. So there you have it, 10 Australian towns where the price tags look like a joke, but the reality is anything but. Cheap homes aren't a blessing, they're a warning sign wrapped in a beautiful landscape. Whether it's drought, isolation, industry collapse, or a climate that treats you like an experiment, every bargain here has a catch.
If you're dreaming of buying a home for under $150K, remember, the real cost isn't the mortgage. It's the lifestyle, the safety, and the long-term survival. Comment below, which town shocked you the most, and would you actually move there if the price was right? If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe and join the chaos. And for our next one, we'll explore towns that look expensive, but are hiding even worse traps. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.